Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the October 21st meeting of Merced County Association of Governments. Joy, would you please call the roll?
Director Aguilar, Director Keel,
Here.
Director Espinoza, Director Faria,
Here.
Director Hogue,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Present.
Director Nagy,
Here.
Director Pedroso, Director Serrato,
Here.
Director Silvera, Director Pereira.
Present.
Thank you, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I was wondering if Mr. Nagy would please lead us.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
He's wearing multiple hats.
Would you bow, if you please? Heavenly Father, we come here to discuss the business of this county. We ask that you bless us, that you guide us, and that you help us to make great decisions for the citizens who have entrusted us with this responsibility. In Jesus' name, amen. Oh,
You can lower it.
But then I can't.
you don't want me singing. Thank you for indulging me. Next is item 2, approval of the agenda. Were there any corrections?
Thank you. No corrections, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Director Nagy, seconded by Director McDaniel. Is there any, I don't have to do public comment on that one, huh? Any public comment? Seeing none, would you please call the roll? Oh, we don't need to call roll if we're in person. Sorry. Give me a minute. Sorry, folks. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Item 3 is public comment. Public comment is available in advance of or during our meeting. The instructions for public comment on page 2 of the agenda packet. Is there any public comment at this time? Nope. Thank you. We'll move to item 4. We do not have a Citizens Advisory Committee report today. We'll move to item 5. These are informational items included in our packet. No presentations will be made by staff unless a board member wishes to ask a question. Any questions? Okay, thank you. We will move to item 6. That is the consent calendar. Does anybody want anything pulled? If not, the chair would entertain a motion.
So move. Second.
It has been moved by McDaniel and seconded by Director Nagy. Any public comment at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will move now to the Merced County Association of Governments, item 7. These are action items. Item A is adopt the 2022 regional or RTIP. Matt Fell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is an action item for adopting the Regional Transportation Improvement Program. This is the document in your packet. So this is a document that MCAG undertakes every 2 years, and this is an opportunity for MCAG to propose a project or projects to the state for funding in the State Transportation Improvement Program. That's their major improvement program using the state transportation dollars. That goes through the California Transportation Commission, as do a lot of the other transportation funding. And just as a refresher, this is a process that MCAG does every 2 years, and last time in 2019, the board's action was to program $29 million to the Atwater Merced Expressway Phase 1B construction a few years out, and then also adopted a policy that future RTIP dollars, these dollars, the priority for those would be the Pioneer Widening Project in Los Banos. So staff started this process with consultations with the City of Los Banos because, as you know, they're underway with that project development. And through those consultations, developed this proposal, which would put $1.5 million of a piece of the STIP funding, basically, to the first part of the Pioneer project, which is the signalization of Ortegalita Road and Pioneer. And there's also some congestion mitigation air quality funds that are going to that same. That was an action that the board took a while back. And then, so that's the main piece of this. And then there's also a piece of planning programming funding that this action would propose, and that's to do the administration and MCAG work on planning and programming projects. And then also that would leave about $5 million that would carry forward to the next STIP. So with the Pioneer in this stage of development that it is, those funds would be undertaken for consideration in the next STIP and possibly combined with any new funding that comes from the STIP 2 years from now. So that would be an opportunity for a future RTIP. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer those. Otherwise, the requested action is to adopt the RTIP.
Okay, any questions? No? What's the pleasure of the board?
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved by Director Kale and seconded by Director Faria. All right, any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any further comment? Nope, okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Move to, or 2A, or A2.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item 7B is a contract authorization for a regional transportation plan. And this is another big item, so I guess we do all the big items all at once. So our RTP is our main plan. This is one of the main purposes for the federal planning funds that we get is to do this plan. So it's a plan that's required by the federal government and the state government, and they each have different pieces that they want to see in this plan. And I just wanted to mention a couple of the things. So on the federal side, we have to demonstrate the air quality conformity, and that's a requirement in order to get federal transportation funds. And then on the state side, to get some of the SB1 competitive funds, you have to have an approved sustainable community strategy. So that's the state piece, and both of those are part of the RTP. So that just is a signifier of the level of importance of it. And then as far as the contract process itself, so we did issue an RFP. We got 3 proposals, evaluated those, and the evaluation recommends VRPA out of Fresno. They had the highest score, best proposal. And so if you have any questions, I could answer those. But otherwise, the action is to recommend authorization for the executive director to enter into a contract with the not to exceed $302,000.
Okay, any questions of Matt? Seeing none, okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director McDaniel, seconded by Director Kale. Any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any further comment here? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Move to item 7C, adopt a resolution authorizing the board and all of its subordinate committees to hold virtual meetings in accordance with AB 361. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many of you, I'm sure, have already started to address the AB 361 requirement for a resolution to continue to allow your councils or your committees to meet virtually and that was as of October 1st. While the governing board and the technical review board are currently not operating or offering a virtual capacity, should that change in the future, or the committees that we have that are meeting virtually right now or in a hybrid setting want to continue to do so, we have to have a resolution passed by this board declaring the need to be able to continue to operate or meet virtually or have a hybrid component. And that resolution would have to be updated every 30 days. So we're putting it on the agenda today to bring your attention to it, and I'm requesting that the board adopt this so that our committees that are offering virtual connectivity or a hybrid approach can continue to do so. And then we'll move it to consent to have this re-upped every month on your regular agenda process.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Do we have any committees that are using the combination of virtual now?
Yes, the Measure V Citizens Oversight Committee, the SSTAC, which is I'm never going to get the Social Services Transportation Advisory Council, which does our unmet transit needs, that's happening right now, as well as our Citizens Advisory Committee, are all using either a completely virtual or a hybrid approach.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of Stacy? Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
Moved by Director Faria and seconded by Director Nagy. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-1. We'll move on to item D. Stacy Guzman. Contract authorization for Regional Housing Needs Assessment Plan in the amount not to exceed $139,000.
Mr. Chair, I'm going to ask Matt Feld to take this item.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This is the next action in the process of the REAP, so the Regional Early Action Planning, which has been discussed at this board a couple times. So you may recall that the board directed a work group of the Technical Review Board to work on these things and to develop recommendations. And then last month, the board authorized additional funding for the regional housing needs allocation, which is what this is about, and a couple other things. And so basically all this is the contract, authorizing the contract amount. And so we are using a process that has been made available through Fresno COG because they developed a consultant bench. There's a bunch of consultants who are experts in housing planning and that field. And so they did a request for qualifications, they built a bench. And so we are proposing to use that process that they developed, and then we went through them to get a list of firms that were qualified to do this. And we discussed this with our REAP work group. And so then we contacted a qualified consultant and asked them through Fresno COG for a scope and a cost proposal, and it's a reasonable cost proposal, and it's a scope of work that's very similar to what's being done in other counties. So all of the Valley counties are doing the same process right now, and so we're very pleased with the scope that they've provided and the cost proposal. And if you have any questions on REAP or RENA, we could answer those. But otherwise, the requested action is to authorize the executive director to enter into a contract for the Regional Housing Needs Assessment Plan in an amount not to exceed $139,000.
Okay. Any questions of Matt? Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Been moved by Director Hoag and seconded by Director Faria. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will move to item 8, which are discussion items. And we're very fortunate today to have Caltrans in the house, item A. Dennis, hello.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Of course, members of your council, I'm glad to be here this evening, and of course, to address Stacy, your executive director. Of course, I'm here today, and I'm happy to be here as much as I can every time you have your board meeting. But as someone's brought to my attention, I always have my dependable deputy here with me, which is Marlon Regisford, and he'll have another opportunity also to cover some other items for our updates. So I got 3 items to cover. First is an update again, and I know you've heard this many times before, but more updates on Clean California and our efforts here in Merced County, along with all the other 7 counties in District 10. First, I'd just like to recognize the partnership with the City of Merced. Appreciate them working with us to put together a state beautification project for the city. And right now it's being proposed as a Merced Gateway and Mural project, estimated at this point to be about $1 million. This nominated project was submitted to our headquarters office for approval. We're waiting for the green light so we can get started in our efforts, and hopefully the commitment we have is that we get this beautification project completed by the end of summer 2023. So a couple years from now. So we're excited about that, and we look forward to getting this partnership project done. Along with that, as you've been informed previously, we held 2 different local grant workshops up in our headquarters office. We are now going to hold a 3rd workshop for the local grant program. And this is going to be in response to what we've heard from feedback from all our partners, is that, hey, this is everything is new to us. How do we go about applying? How do we put these forms together? And so that workshop is really like a technical workshop to really go through the steps of how to apply for a local grant workshop. Now, I've always offered my District 10 Clean California Coordinator, Sam Sherman, as a resource as well. And he would be available to address and help any of our counties or cities or tribes or transit agencies who are interested in applying for a Clean California local grant project. So that workshop is going to be held on November 18th from 10 to 12 noon. And you could sign up and register under the cleancalifornia.dot.ca.gov webpage under the local grant program. So please share that with those who are interested in applying. Along with this partnership, again, we appreciate the finally executed delegated maintenance agreement with the City of Merced. And this helps with our litter abatement in your area. And of course, we extend that to any other city who has the capacity to do a delegated maintenance agreement with Caltrans. We do have the dollars available, so, and if you have the infrastructure to make it happen, we're open to expanding more delegated maintenance agreements with other partners. So I wanted to make sure I shared that. Along with that, I know that I've mentioned before the Free Dump Day partnership, and I know that my coordinator has either reached out or maybe has not been reached out. But if you're very interested in trying to do some type of Free Dump Day, again, Sam Sherman is available to have that discussion. So if you're interested in a Free Dump Day and how we can coordinate and help with the funding on that, we would love to partner with you. Other work that we continue to do with Clean California is the Adopt a Highway program. I believe statewide we did go out and do a press release in regards to the Adopt a Highway program with the stipend that's available now. So if you adopt say a 2-mile section in our highway, every month you would get a stipend of $250. And so that could add up for, after a year, about $3,000. So hopefully this would help incentivize others to come in and volunteer, and not just volunteer, get a stipend to help do areas that are adoptable for litter pickup. So I wanted to share that's up and running, and again, looking for folks who are very interested in doing this. We can contact, again, my coordinator, or through our webpage, we have Adopt a Highway contact information. if you're interested. And lastly, on Clean California, our maintenance crews to kind of help, again, with all the litter pickup. We are now going to be doing extra pickup on every second and fourth Saturday of every month. And actually, we're even looking for some partnerships out there. If the communities are interested in going out there with us to do these twice a month litter pickup on a Saturday, please reach out to us, because we're very interested in getting as much help as we can get. So that's out there for you to consider. The second thing I wanted to cover, and moving away from Clean California, is the broadband expansion efforts along the state. As you know, with the legislation has passed, dollars going through California Department of Technology and CPUC. We're given an opportunity to expand the middle mile infrastructure, which is to provide the capacity for fiber optics and broadband through our system. Now, even though District 10 has current funding for Amador, Alpine, and Mariposa, this doesn't mean we can't start early communication coordination with Merced, the county, or the city to start with where does it make sense of where your needs are, right? And if we're going to build this in our infrastructure and provide that opportunity, we want to make sure we're building it at the right place that's going to serve your community. So I do have a broadband coordinator. Her name is Dina El Nakal, and again, you can either look it up in our contact, or I can give you the phone number, or I can send it over to Stacy so that she can distribute that to all of you. Okay, and she would be another great contact to have. And again, she's more than willing to do early coordination for the broadband efforts. Okay, so there's a lot of high expectations that we get started. So as early as we can start communicating would be appreciated. The third item I want to discuss is that I just want to share that our Chief Deputy Director, Mike Keever, our acting, actually came down and met with the 8 Valley COG directors just this last Tuesday, right, Stacy? I think it was, yeah, just Tuesday. And I just want to say it was a very, I thought, a very good meeting. We had a really open discussion. I thank my chief deputy to being there, because all the questions were addressed to him. And so I didn't have to speak as much as needed. And I do want to say I do really greatly appreciate the partnership we have with all of you, especially with your executive director, Stacy Guzman. She's been doing a great job leading that effort for the State Route 99 Summit discussion. She even made some comments at that meeting that I am very favorable for, and look forward to supporting when we do take it back to the 8 Valley COG directors for further discussion. It will be a true collaborated effort to hold this summit. It's not going to be just a Caltrans-led from top down. That was what we made clear at the meeting. We also want to make sure that we do take in consideration our partners' needs and what you would like to see come out of that summit. We want it to be successful, and the only way we can do that is if we work together and have that open discussion and make sure it's part of that agenda. So I wanted to share those 3 items. I know I'm going to pass it over to Marlon, but I also want to thank Director Kale for bringing to me some pictures of an encampment in the city of Atwater. And just so you know, Marlon and I would definitely follow up to see what we can do in that particular encampment. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. Right now, I'll pass it over to Marlon, and of course, we'll take any questions that you have for us.
Yeah, could you share that information with Stacy to pass on to us?
Yes, I can do
It
that.
said you could do it either way, but that'd be great.
I will do that.
Mr. Agar, to the chair?
Yes.
The Adopt a Highway, is that any nonprofit or any organization or
Yes.
any club or?
Anybody.
That could be a school club. It could be.
Yes, it can be.
Does it have to be a certified nonprofit or not? Or no?
No.
No.
Okay, so any group.
Anybody who's interested.
Yeah, I could use the exercise. And then the delegated maintenance agreement, if you could tell us just a little bit more about that.
So the delegate maintenance agreement is that we contribute dollars to help hire a crew, like a litter crew. And normally this litter crew, and what we've worked with, which expanded from in the city of Stockton. It's what they call the Ready to Work program. And these are folks that are trying to get back into society and become good citizens and get great jobs. And this gives them an opportunity to help with that effort. And so working with the city and that agreement that you would have with that, say, Ready to Work program would help with that effort. And we hire these people as part of our litter crew pickup so we can go out there 5 days a week, every day in that particular area where you need to be picked up as far as litter is concerned.
Okay.
So that's how it works. It's been successful in other cities. I know other cities in our district has been taking advantage of that opportunity. So again, this is a great time because we do have the funding capacity to expand that.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah. Well, we have 3 state highways coming right through town. So.
Yes. So again, Sam Sherman, Mauricio, my deputy for maintenance, and also Warren Alford, who is my encampment coordinator. All 3 of them are great to work with that to get those delegated maintenance agreements executed.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll pass it on to Marlon.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you to the board. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Madam Director. I will be very brief. And thanks, Dennis, again for your comments. I do want to add a couple things on for the board today. One is something I've probably mentioned previously, but I just want to mention again. This is kind of last call, but we have our Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program that we have a current call for applications out for, and this is something that we hold every single year, millions of dollars available to local jurisdictions around the state to conduct planning activities as related to transportation and sustainability. But I do want to mention this because we only have 7 days left. Actually 6 days left. The end of our call for application period is next Wednesday, October 27th at 5 p.m. So if you are interested, if you have any thoughts, questions, we'd love to hear it. We'd love to see some great plans move forward from anywhere in Merced County, and we have funded grants across the county in the past, and we're looking forward to any opportunities moving forward. So if you have any questions on that, we do have all this information on our Caltrans Planning Grants website, and you can always contact me as well if you'd like further information. I do also want to mention another grant opportunity that our state headquarters is actually doing a consolidated application for, but this is actually on the transit side. Federal Transit Administration, they previously announced the opportunity to apply for roughly over $400 million of fiscal year 2021 funds for the FTA 5339 grants for buses and bus facilities program. So I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention. This is something where states, local governments, and tribes are eligible to apply, but it is, for the most part, it's mostly for projects in rural, non-urbanized areas, and the state is looking to submit a consolidated application. So if you're interested in that, let me know. We can definitely discuss submitting a consolidated application. And the deadline for that is November 16th, so we do still have several weeks on that. Once again, that's for FTA 5339 grant program. The other opportunity I wanted to mention for the board, our federal partners, Federal Highway Administration, they are holding a safety workshop through our Division of Local Assistance. And so this is to demonstrate the effective use of focus crash and facility types for systemic safety analysis. So this is a workshop that's going to be held on the 3rd of November from 9:30 to 1:30. Deadline for registration is next Wednesday, October 27th. If you'd like further information on that as well, please feel free to contact me. I'll be happy to give you all the information you need. The last thing I wanted to mention regarding updates is the Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, or ITSP. That was recently finalized by our Caltrans headquarters of planning, system planning. And it's basically a plan that happens every 5 years, a highway and rail improvement plan to prioritize and develop transportation projects that connect the state's different regions and move people and goods more safely, efficiently, and sustainability. So it's a plan that we really hold in high regard in order to provide that connectivity within regions across the state. It's an important plan and helps to at least organize the state and what things should be funded in a regional sense moving forward. So this final plan is on our website, the Caltrans website. You can take a look at it there, but also if you you can contact me as well if you'd like a copy of that plan. I'm happy to discuss that with you. The very last thing I want to mention to the board today is the rest area closure, the John Erica rest area closure over by I-5. That's going to be closed for electrical work starting on the 1st of November through the 3rd of November. So only 2 days, but just want to make sure that folks are aware. If you're out and about traveling on I-5, please, you might want to avoid that area because it's actually both northbound and southbound rest areas we're doing work on. And this may change due to weather issues. We know that there's weather coming in our way, but that's our plan to do the closure between the 1st and the 3rd of next month. That's all I have for the board today. I'd like to take any questions, thoughts, concerns if you have any. Appreciate the time.
Sure, Director McDaniel.
Thank you. And Dennis, Marlon, thank you very much for being here today. I wanted to, it's not a question, it's more of a comment. I appreciated the Caltrans update on KYOS, our local radio station. If we can keep that, I actually had constituency reaching out to me saying they had no idea how many projects we had going on in Merced County. And it was about a 15-minute segment of an update. If we could keep that going, monthly is probably too much, but at least quarterly, I think the folks appreciate it, and maybe their frustration while they're waiting in line in some of these pinch points, maybe they understand because of what we're doing. And then second of all, my vote against going virtual is actually for both of you, Dennis and Marlon, because I want you guys to commute on the 99 on the way here. I don't want to give you the virtual out, so.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, that was it.
Anyone else? I have one. I'll give you an off-ramp. So 99 southbound at Monte Vista. So it's kind of, I don't know if it's a pet peeve. I don't think it's a pet peeve because I think it's a safety issue. But when you come off of the on-ramp, there's a sign that says what the lanes you can do in the lanes going forward. And then the first set of paints on the markers in the lanes, right? The middle one up on the sign says go straight. It's in the middle one, the first one says go straight. When you get to the bottom, you can go straight or turn left. Right, and so I went through there today, and a vehicle is in the center lane, and they're fighting to get over because they don't know when they get to the bottom they can turn left. Right, so I just don't understand why you wouldn't message it all the same the whole way through. I mean, there may be some engineering reason, but I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. And that I see that elsewhere. Where the first set of paint strips is different than the last set, and to me, that's confusing to drivers. Anybody else?
Sure.
Just to clarify, that's Monte Vista exit in Stanislaus County?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Vito asked me to help.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, and I do have one other comment. I don't know if Director Pedroso had reached out to you. I guess there's 2 LeGrand Road exits on 99, and it's becoming very confusing. Whenever they tell you to take the LeGrand Road exit, you don't know which one.
There's actually an exit for the community of LeGrand right after if you're traveling northbound as you get out of Chowchilla, and then as you approach and you're in Merced County, that would be Arboleda. No, what comes up first? But the exit is Plainsburg.
Oh yeah.
The actual exit is Plainsburg, but it's giving you an arrow saying LeGrand, so it appears to be it's giving you an indicator to go to LeGrand Road. So we've had friends out of town say I took a 25-minute detour. So they're stacked, but they are there's a bit of a distance between, but if you're on the highway, you hit one and there's LeGrand, and then, 15 minutes, 10 minutes later, you hit the other and it says LeGrand that way.
LeGrand Road.
LeGrand Road, and it's the Plainsburg exit.
Got it.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Director.
I think of that every time I come from Bryce.
Sure. Director Serrato?
Wanted to thank you guys for your partnership, your work with the city of Merced on the delegated maintenance agreement, also with the potential grant for the murals signs as well. Appreciate what you're trying to fight to make the city. It's a big battle. We're trying to fight to make it clean and beautiful. We appreciate what you guys are doing as well. And then in addition to that, I'm happy to work in whichever way you can and trying to organize volunteers as well for those cleanups you suggested too. So I'll reach out to you guys
Great.
offline about. You said second and fourth Saturday of the month.
Yes, second and fourth Saturday.
Where are the locations? Just certain Caltrans properties or certain state properties?
Yes, and it'll be a safe area, and we can coordinate ahead of time so we can do the proper training for those who want to come out there. We'll provide all the supplies, the pickers, the vest, and whatever else we need to keep you guys safe. But yes, it'll be various locations where it either hasn't been adopted or common areas where there's a high traffic and high trash area.
What do you anticipate, like Highway 59?
Again, if you reach out to us, you guys know your communities better than we do, and if you have hot spots that you guys would like us to focus on, it's better if we hear from you. Otherwise, our maintenance crews really know the roads and they know where the high traffic trash areas are, but having that communication up front to make sure we're on the same page would help.
Yeah, okay. I can find trash.
Okay. I will definitely follow up and send 3 contacts informations to Stacy. One is, again, our Clean California coordinator. The other is our broadband coordinator. And lastly, our encampment coordinator. And I'll have all the emails and contact information that she can share to all of you, and feel free to reach out to them directly.
Thank you.
Right. Stacy?
Go ahead.
Marlon, if you could email me that safety workshop information, I really would love to go to
The FHWA workshop? Or I'll send you all of them.
Okay, okay, that's great.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Will do.
And then Stacy had a comment.
Thank you both for being here. I did want to mention that today MCAG and TCAG and Madera CTC will be sending a letter to Director Omashakin thanking Caltrans for the draft ITIP inclusion of the 99 projects. So we have, of course, our Livingston Southbound project that was programmed in 2018. So we're, of course, excited to see that there. But specifically the projects in Tulare and then the request out of Madera. And also just acknowledging for the board, and we can talk more about this in my update, but just acknowledging the connection to the 99 Summit for the Madera project funding and the corridor plan. So I'll just reiterate what we said earlier this week, that we're a partner in that discussion. We're eager to get started, and we look forward to having some great conversation between now and March. So thank you both for that.
Executive Director Stacy Guzman, I just want to share that I look forward to our meeting upcoming next Monday. It is our executive steering partnership meeting, and we have a lot of great discussions there, and I look forward to the items you bring up to our Caltrans team. And we'll share more information about all these projects that we have planned for your area, including the rest area. If you didn't know already, the Erica rest areas would be upgraded. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to the CTC this coming December to ask for a supplemental funds request so we can get the contract awarded and then start construction as early as next spring. So I wanted to share that good news. We really need to get that project started.
Thank you.
I mean, no disrespect, but it's Eureka.
I'm sorry, Eureka.
Well, the family's in Los Banas, so,
Yeah.
I mean, here, you didn't offend anybody.
No.
But
Thank you for
in
the
front of the family, yeah.
Yeah.
I wouldn't let anybody know.
And I'll make sure to get a copy of the letter to both of you that will go out today.
Well, thanks for your time. We appreciate you both being here.
You're welcome. And if I could ask to be excused, if that's okay, or do you would like us to stay until the end of the meeting?
Nope. In fact, we appreciate you being here and respect to your time. And maybe if it's, I don't know if there's a reason, but maybe next time we'll try to get you earlier in the agenda,
Okay.
if that would be pleasurable for you.
Make sure you fill up your.
We definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. And don't forget to fill up before you get to Stan County. Okay. We need the dollars, man. We need the dollars.
Definitely keep that in mind every time we come down.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move to the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County. 9 is an action item. Authorize the purchase of 3 cutaway buses. Christine, well, hello, Christine. How are you today?
Let me take off my mask so you guys can hear me.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, directors. Nice to see you all. I wanted to present to you just some information about the item before you. TJPA is looking for authorization to order 3 new transit vehicles to replace existing like vehicles. These have been within the fiscal year's budget. These are a 5339A grant, the one that they were just talking about that's going to be opening up soon for transit vehicles. We just got authority to move forward with the purchase, but we wanted to seek formal authority to purchase those. These will have 3 wheelchair positions. So these are the smaller vehicles, so like the dial-a-ride vehicles or the ones you'll see on the microbus. So these aren't the big fixed route vehicles.
How many passenger?
16.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you lose 2 seats for every wheelchair, but then, so the configuration is actually on page 195.
Okay.
And so I think it's, Skylar can probably shout it out offhand. Seating capacity?
16 and 3.
16 with 3 wheelchairs? Okay, yeah, 16 with 3 wheelchairs. So then you can add 2 seats for each wheelchair you put up. So if there's not a wheel, so the 3rd wheelchair, you can add 4 seats. So it can be a maximum of 20 seats plus 2 wheelchairs, or 3 wheelchairs plus 16 seats.
Gotcha.
Okay. And these are similar to all of the other vehicles that we have. So they're gravel vehicles on a Ford chassis. We are getting the upgraded suspension on these vehicles because we are seeing some issues with them at the end of their useful life. And these will complete the purchases that we have for the vehicles we're expecting for the fiscal year to be received. So seeking your authority in an amount not to approve, $410,982,000.
You mean not to exceed?
Yes, sorry.
All right. Any questions of Christine about the buses? What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll move.
Second.
Been moved by Director McDaniel and seconded by Director Faria. Any public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the dais. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. We'll move to item 10, discussion item, emergency service reduction plan for the bus. Christine Chavez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is not as good of news, but due to the ongoing driver shortage and supply chain issues that we're having, we've been affected to a point where we can no longer sustain existing services. And so we've been working with First Transit, our contractor, to recruit and just get everyone we can, and we just are at a point where we need to reduce services. So staff evaluated some of our lower passenger per hour routes, some of our higher frequency routes, and took the lowest performing of those 2 statistics and have recommended for reduction services. And so what you're going to see is a schedule for the Livingston commuter, which is now going to be combined with the Winton 2, the W2, which is the old combination of routes between Livingston and Merced, or Winton and Merced. And so, and then the LB commuter, which is the Los Banos commuter, we increased when we implemented the microbus pilot. And so we increased the frequency to be an hour headway, which means if you're standing at a stop, the bus comes by every hour. And so we're now going to reduce that to 90 minutes. So the ridership isn't sustaining the hour demand. So now we know that, and we know that that service is not being utilized to its maximum existence. So we have evaluated some of the peak ridership times to make sure people can still get to school, to work, to whatever appointments that they need to, and then have a decent transfer once they get into their endpoint. So staff is confident. We've run this by drivers and passengers, and we've just tried to get the messaging out that this is what we're going to do. The CARES Act, or the I think it's CARES Act funding. There's some legislation that's allowing us to do emergency service reductions without having to do the full public input, but we're trying to notify the public as much as possible, just so it's not a surprise when people show up for their bus at 6 a.m. and it doesn't show up. So we've been having to cancel service because we haven't been able to make service, and so this will just have a planned service reduction, so we're no longer surprising people when they're trying to be on their way. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, Director McDaniel?
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, so we're not expanding with more buses, we're just losing drivers? Do we know what we're losing drivers to? Are they taking like trucking positions or?
I mean, it's just kind of a combination. It's kind of a perfect storm of things. So First Transit came on in May of 2020, which was right in the middle of the pandemic. And so recruitment at that time was just really hard. And it's been a challenge ongoing, and then just kind of coming out of the old contract and the old HR manners and ways of kind of handling different disciplines is kind of catching up to where they're at a lower staffing than they had been. And then they're working now to raise the minimum starting wage under our existing contracts, so they're a little tied with their financial kind of constraints. So it's kind of a combination of things. But we've been at we were at the trucking job fair. They've posted it kind of everywhere, and it's just, there's no one biting. But we did get certified to do our own licensing, so we no longer have to drive up to Antioch to get people licensed. We had to schedule that, take a bus, and it just was a lot of resources. So now we have an on-site person who can license drivers, which certified through the DMV. And then you don't have to have a license to be hired. So we will train you and get you in. And so what they are seeing is people are coming in, getting trained, and then leaving. And so that's unfortunate, but you know, what can we do? So they've really tried. It's just kind of the times. I mean, it sounds kind of hard to say, but I know the school districts are struggling. It's a nationwide issue. It's not specific just to.
Well, it's hurting all industries. That's why it's kind of pinpointing this one to see where we're losing these folks too, if they're just not coming back to work, or because I sit on the workforce development board as well, and we're really doing a deep dive trying to figure this out. Not just this, it's all industries, but we're trying to figure out what's the cause of it.
Yeah, and it's just a whole bunch of different issues, and it's just the perfect storm, and they've been able to sustain it. And then there's kind of some laxed HR rules with, you know, leave of absences and that sort of stuff, and so that's compounding the issue. I know the other service that we manage, Yards, we had to reduce service there because we didn't have enough operators. People were relocating out of the state, or, you know, taking school jobs. I think we saw some loss to the school buses, which hadn't been operating in a year. And so here we are 2 months into the school year and, you know, still not recovering. So I think it's just kind of a mix of a lot of things.
Okay.
And if I could just contribute to the shortage issue, Christine forwarded an article to me about a month ago that talked about, I think it was in Massachusetts, where when they were gearing up for the school year, they had such a driver shortage for buses that they were bringing in and training National Guardsmen and women to drive the school buses because they could not deliver the transit services to the students through the school system. So it's much larger than us. And it's unfortunate, but this will give us some ability to operate more reliably. So it's still unfortunate if someone has to wait an hour and a half instead of an hour, but at least they know at an hour and a half the bus is going to show up. Whereas right now we're having to cut service on a whim, or on it, you know, at the last minute or the day of, because of those shortages.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll just add, the other issue that we're seeing is just shortage in parts. So, you know, some engines are like 6 months out, or radiators or whatever. And so this will just help us overall with our operations. Our electric buses that we're scheduled to receive at the end of this year, early next year, it was in the monthly report, but we're not going to be receiving those until August or September of next year because the battery parts are overseas and just taking a long time to be received. And it's not specific to us. It's just kind of the electric buses. Production line has been extended, so it's affecting us, and so it's just trying to keep things moving, keep the buses moving, and then this will also allow capacity to increase the ability to provide or to meet the demands for paratransit services, which we now are offering for free with the Measure V free fare program. So that will be kind of a good bonus.
Okay, thank you. Is that it?
That is all I have today.
All right, I appreciate that. No last questions or last minute questions? Okay, thank you. We will move on to the Merced County RWM Authority. And we have no action items, but item 12 are discussion. Item 12A is landfill gas to energy update, and that's Stacy Guzman.
That'll be me, and I have so many things on my desk. I'm in front of me. Here we go. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not Eric Zetz, but I'm happy to provide this update on his behalf, and we have Marty Eric in the audience as well. Marty, you want to come and do this one?
He's only got a little bit of time.
Yeah, he's short timer right now. Okay.
That's why he's smiling.
Yeah, he's smiling under that mask. Okay, so this is an update on a long history of things, but I'm going to keep it as brief as I can. The last direction that we received from this board was to arrange a meeting with the chancellor and his staff, along with our chair and vice chairman, to essentially we're at the point of we need to know, is the landfill gas to energy project going or not. We were hitting some delays with the UC. We were prepared to bring the question to this board in the spring as to whether or not we would proceed with construction. And that meeting happened in early September. And the conclusion or the outcome of that meeting was to have Eric and I and our team with the chancellor's team meet again and really dig down and look at some of these overarching challenges that we were facing, namely around the increased project costs that we are anticipating, just the nature of the way life is right now with everything, as well as the timeline. We had finally received more information about how the UC was going to have to go through their approval process, and it was starting to become increasingly apparent that as a public agency, as a risk-averse public agency working with a risk-averse public agency, those timelines were going to be very difficult to overlay because certain components triggered a time frame for action. And so it started to get very complicated. But after that meeting at the staff level, so that was then the second meeting, we each had our homework. We dug in with our consultant team to really try to get an idea of what those costs were going to be, or what we anticipated the increased costs were going to be, because at the end of the day, it had to pencil out for the UC as well to be competitive with some of their solar projects or some other alternative other than the methane. So we were getting into those weeds, and at some point, the Vice Chancellor and I connected, just he and I, and we walked through a whole host of issues, and that produced the letter, a letter from the UC to me, from the interim Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer, Pat Lenz. And I have a copy here. I can distribute it by email, and I can leave one for the clerk for public document, essentially saying that at this time they don't believe that proceeding with the project makes sense. From a staff perspective, we are in concurrence based on what we have learned and the concerns that the UC has and how it could be moving forward. So this is just an action item. We wanted to give you an update timely, but we'll need to work with legal counsel to address the process of terminating the MOU, which is recommended by the UC in their letter that they're ready to move to that step. I just want to note that the conclusion of this was a frustrating project and a frustrating process, and I'm sure many of you have heard that from me or one of the folks on Eric or someone on our team at some point in the last 7 years. But I'm really pleased that if this had to be the final outcome, we are parting ways with the UC on a professional note and on good terms. This was not did not dissolve out of any kind of inability to find a path forward. It was a consensus that was arrived at. They did indicate that once they do some additional work on their infrastructure, that they wouldn't rule out looking for future opportunities to work with us. I did indicate that there has already been interest expressed at the board to pursue other options, so I didn't want to mislead them that we would be still available to do a project in however many years. It may turn out to be the case, it may not. But our staff has already worked on modifying the procurement document that will be released for the organics processing, the DBO that we have talked about. So so that proposers would know that methane could be available if they wanted to incorporate that into the proposal response that they would be preparing. So we were able to get that in before that procurement opportunity was released. And am I missing anything, Emily? All right, I got the thumbs up. So that's where we are at this time. We'll work with council. We'll bring an item back if there's action necessary on the MOU termination. Otherwise, we're going to close that chapter of the book, and you'll be hearing from staff in the future about potential opportunities moving forward.
Okay, thank you for that update. Is there, and there, if I remember right, but there's no, in the cancellation of the MOU, there's no reimbursement of any of the expenses from the UC, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then, do we have thoughts to kind of like quantitate the volume of gas that's available and put that out as a separate RFP? We have that already. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the board? Comments?
Want people to woo us. We
Yeah.
have gas. Impress us. We have methane. What do you want to do with it? Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Cleaner than the comforts.
Well, that, yeah, it's kind of funny. Anyway, so that moves us to other reports. Item 13, Executive Director's Report. Stacy Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Christine mentioned the delay on our electric buses to the fall, so I won't go into that. I did just want to mention in a little more detail the letter that that the chairman has signed today and that we are sending with Madera and Tulare. So I have provided updates for the last couple of months here and there on the Highway 99, Finish the 99 coalition that we are part of with these other two counties. Director McDaniel has been the representative in the planning effort on the valley-wide level with Madera, colleagues from Madera and Tulare counties. And I will just say that leading up to this point, it's really been a matter of before the state completely if the state's going to get to a point in the future where widening projects are not going to be competitive for funding, which is the way things are kind of moving, we need to make sure that the 99 widening plans as laid out in the business plan are completed. That's the simplest thing. We have two segments that are not completed or even really in the works at this point. In Merced County, I mentioned the Livingston project. Northbound's under construction. Southbound will be going to construction next year. I think it's those two. So that segment's kind of in the works, plan for or almost done. But there's the Atwater and the Merced segments. But so Matt and I, and with our colleagues, we're looking long term about how do we what do we need to study? What do we need to be planning for? How do we just get in the pipeline to make sure those projects are not left behind? Madera and Tulare have projects that are ready to go to construction. They've done the planning work. They're more traditional widening projects. And so as a coalition, it's building this effort and building these supporters to help us keep in communication with the state that you can't walk away and forget to widen the rest of 99. And to the credit that the Caltrans meeting we had on Tuesday that Dennis mentioned, they did say, we're not saying we'll never widen. It's just not going to be the answer all the time as the obvious choice. It's going to be an analysis of other alternatives, things like a dedicated truck lane or other types of things that could happen on 99. And widening can still be in the conversation in appropriate settings. So that was a bit of we saw that as a win because we hadn't heard that before. So we're going to keep doing that. But I wanted to mention this letter in particular because the tone changed a little bit. The draft ITIP was released, I think, last week. And in it were the projects I mentioned. And it also addresses Madera's request for additional funding for their construction of their project, which is great. So this becomes a thank you letter instead of a, fist waving, do what we need you to do. It's a thank you for including these projects. But there's also language that says that Madera's project funding is contingent upon a summit being held with Caltrans District 6 and 10 on the 99 corridor, and that a 99 corridor plan is also completed by March. So that's a short timeline. It's a lot of work. So you'll be hearing about this more and more as Matt and I lend ourselves to that effort, as well as Director McDaniel, now that we're going to start ramping things up. So I wanted to kind of give that background. I waited a bit because I wanted to give a lengthier explanation, but just know that you'll hear more about it. We may be looking at we are looking for opportunities to build the coalition with business partners, community groups, anyone along the corridor or in the county that wants to lend its name to the effort. We'll be working on that as well, and we'll be preparing to launch a website and some maps and all of that other good stuff. So that letter is going out. It will be sent out to the full board so that you can see it, and there'll be more to come. So fingers crossed. That was the longest item. The other is just a reminder that the East and West meetings for the Measure VRPC are next week. And Matt and I, Nav, and many of your staff have been working really hard on developing proposals for programming your projects. So, and I'm really optimistic. I don't want to curse us or jinx us. I'm really optimistic that the proposals that we'll have next week will move well. I think we're cracking some of the harder programming questions that we were dealing with. So just make sure those are on your calendar, and if you can't be there, please send an alternate, and we will be requesting action. So we're at a place where you could take action if you so choose.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Thank you.
Looking if I forgot anything.
Any questions of Stacy? Nope. We'll move on to item 14, director's reports. We'll start to the left. If you have a report, give it. If not, pass on.
Thanks. Well, we have a couple of new employees at the city. We have a new city manager, Josh Pinheiro, and we have a she's actually gone from the city to the representative for the Peninsula Clean Energy, which will be our clean energy power provider starting in April. Sandra Manetti, and she's been in our Community Economic Development Department, worked there with Stacy for many years, and now she will be the Community Outreach Specialist for PCE. We're looking to bring not just clean power, but also there are a number of grants and rebate programs for electrification, automobile electrification, clean air, and so as I told PCE, I said, your big selling point here in the San Joaquin Valley is cleaning of the air, that is it's a big thing for us. Of course, the clean power overall, but that idea of getting away from fossil fuels so that you can have cleaner air in the valley here is going to be great. Sandra is going to be the liaison for that. We appreciate that constant marching forward on this Pioneer Pacheco Corridor project. We're finally seeing it happen. The traffic, it all kind of softened up during the COVID. It is horrendous now. The local traffic combined with the through traffic, we're glad to see that keep moving forward. And now it's just a matter of essentially deciding where that connection is going to be on the west side, and then to see eventually how the development would go out on Pioneer out to Ward. That would eventually, because that's going to be a developer-led type of thing, unless some great big chunk of money came out of the air and allowed us to extend Pioneer for a couple of miles to connect it to Ward on the other end. But I'm very pleased to see this moving forward. Every time I see people in town, I do music for the Catholic Church quite a bit. I'm walking up with my music bag. Hey Tom, when's that road getting done? I said, well, I'll talk to you after Mass. So anyway, all's going well, and thanks again. And I guess we'll see you next Thursday is our Measure V committee meeting, right? Yeah, I'll be there for that one. Thank you, and thanks for voting me vice president.
That's you guys. Yeah, you do.
Oh, I know. I'm teasing. Okay, Stacy? April?
Whatever my name is. That's fine.
I know your name.
I'd just like to say two things. Thank you for the cleanup day that we had a couple weeks ago. Goss Palace had a wonderful cleanup day. It took hours and hours of people in line, but we got our community cleaned up a little bit. And I use the 99 highway every day, back and forth, and it's wonderful to have it be enlarged, I guess. But it's been a blessing, believe me. I have it down to the minute on how to get to work now. So anyway, but that's all for me. But thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate everybody's work, and I'm very excited about the next Measure V meeting. So thank you.
How much time did it cut off your commute?
Well, there's no more traffic jams, so
The Madera sections that were white.
15 minutes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
Director
have
McDonald.
it down to 55 minutes.
Ooh.
Not 54, not 56.
Anything?
Thank you. I just want to note that how fast this meeting went without Director Silvera here. I just thought that would be duly noted.
Hey,
I'll
lucky
probably
they have
see it.
mask on out there. He won't be able to see you laughing in the video.
I'll probably see him tonight, so I'll let him know.
Director Serrato? Director Nagy?
Well, on Director McDaniel's note, I just wanted to note that the only directors that are missing are county directors. All the cities are represented here today.
You're welcome.
But I did want to share, and some of you may have gotten this also, but there's a display at the Courthouse Museum running through February of the history of Merced County, the colonization and so forth, and it looks to be quite a neat thing to go see. So just wanted to put that out there. It's at the Courthouse Museum, which is just right over here. So, and they're open Wednesday through Sunday from 1 to 4.
Right over there.
Right over there.
Hey,
Yeah, that way.
over there.
Exactly.
I got it
Thank you.
now. Director Kale?
I'm good.
All right. Anything? Anything?
I already went.
Oh, that's true, huh? All right. Well, I don't have anything for you, so we will call this meeting adjourned at 4:08.
I